Now, there's no doubt that the Schnee family is going to play a major role in the Atlas arc of RWBy that we are currently heading into with Volume 7. You know, what with their major connections throughout Atlas and Remnant, as well as their company being the most profitable and well-known throughout, I think, all of Remnant, but at the very least, Atlas, and then their possible connections with Faunus oppression and potentially Faunus slavery as well, you know, what with Adam's scar and everything. So there was a theory proposed by Walter Thomas back when I reached 1,000 subs, and it's taken me a little while to get around to doing it, but he suggested maybe I do a theory on how RWBy might meet Jacques Schnee. So I decided to expand on that a little bit and go over how the team that is currently heading to Atlas, our main characters, are going to encounter the Schnee family. Both Jacques Schnee, Whitley Schnee, Klein, and hopefully Weiss's mother as well. Of course, there's also Winter Schnee, but we've already kind of encountered her throughout the series, though I will say that Crow and Winter is something that I really want to see their interactions happen again and potentially get an expansion on that little duel that they had at Volume 3. However, how I think that everyone is going to encounter the Schnee family, well, let's see how everyone's heading to Atlas currently. They are on a military ship that is both damaged and not to mention stolen. So we already heard at the end of Volume 7 that the military intercom has already cleared them for entrance, so they're probably going to have to go straight to the military base. Either because of the damage or just because they would be shot down, tracked down, or whatever if they don't. And then it's going to be realized that they stole that ship. They are not actually military personnel. They're probably going to be imprisoned, though Weiss may not, because of course she's a Schnee and she has privileges, but they're probably going to be detained in some way, and then Winter called, or Ironwood, or something. Crow will probably maybe have some connections in Atlas. He seems to have connections everywhere, so I wouldn't be surprised. So I'm going to assume that they're going to be detained in some way, at least waiting for Winter or Ironwood to come contact them. And with, you know, Jacques Schnee being a massive influencer on all of Atlas, I wouldn't be surprised if at least a few, in fact I expect at least a few of Ironwood's soldiers to be on Jacques' payroll, if not only to inform Jacques of Ironwood's handlings and what he's doing with Atlas, you know, closing the borders, everything like that. Especially after closing the borders, I wouldn't be surprised if even more of his army's on his payroll. However, that might mean the information of Weiss being back in Atlas will get to Jacques before Winter or Ironwood can get to them, and that might mean that Weiss may be pulled away from the group by the soldiers after, you know, all their weapons are removed and everything, and then she's brought back to Daddy's mansion, imprisoned there to keep her out of the public eye and keep from shaming the company even more. If that's the case, then their objectives now in Atlas will be twofold. One, to go to the Academy and get the relic, and then to go rescue Weiss. Not to mention, you know, preparing for war if that entire army that Salem has amassed is coming towards them. I don't think that will be until the end of Volume 7. I think this will all happen beforehand. So, assuming that there's those two goals, they'll have to split into two different groups, one going after Weiss, one going after the relic, etc. I feel like Team RWBy, at the very least, would go after Weiss in Jacques' mansion, potentially with the help of Winter. I doubt it though, because she's military personnel. That would create tension in all of Atlas. So, or at least between the Atlas military, Schnee company, there's political things here and there, but Winter might actually let them into the mansion because she is a Schnee. But I think it'd probably be, you know, RWBy, Yang and Blake who go after her, potentially some of the other kids, and then it's Crow, at the very least, who goes over to Atlas Academy. Hell, maybe everyone else goes after Weiss. I'm not exactly sure how everything's going to be divided up. Either way, if that's the case, everyone's opinion of Jacques is not going to be very nice, having dragged Weiss off. Especially RWBy, Blake, and Yang are going to be extremely pissed off. Because RWBy has had a very close connection with Weiss. They've been partners the entire series, and, you know, everyone shipping White Rose and things like that. They do have a very strong sisterly connection. So RWBy's not going to be very happy, though I don't think she would actually physically lash out at Jacques. She will have some words to say to him and will have no qualms about breaking into the mansion and trying to break Weiss out. Jacques, however, well, he's of course not going to give a crap about Weiss's friends, So he's going to do everything possible, potentially even bringing out more of those mech knights, I want to say Giga Armus. I'm not 100% sure on what the armor titan that Weiss summons was called, but I need to look that up again. But I wouldn't be surprised if he has improved the technology, the Grim technology that he's been working on in the background. I don't know if that's public knowledge. It's definitely knowledge that Weiss has, considering she fought the giant knight. So we'll see if he has more of those under his control, if he's learned to control Grim, and potentially send those after the team. Again, leaving a bad impression. I don't think there's really going to be any physical interaction. RWBy will tell him off. If Jacques meets Blake, he is not going to be happy that someone of the Schnee bloodline is hanging around with a lowly Faunus. And I only say this to impersonate Jacques. It's not something that I actually think, just want to put that out there. But he's not going to be happy about that. And if he starts putting Blake down, potentially trying to put her to death and order things like that, guess who's going to get real pissed off? Yang. Not to mention her connection that she also has with Weiss after that, moment we saw in Volume 5. That hug that they had is worth a whole lot more to me, to the fandom, to Yang and Weiss than Jacques Schnee's teeth. So I hope that what actually happens is that Yang recreates that scene at the beginning of Volume 5 where she knocked the teeth of that bandit out. Would love to see that to happen to Jacques. Just Jacques missing his 2 front teeth on the ground, just bewildered that someone would actually hit him, would be beautiful. Now, the rest of the people, the rest of the team, Crow has probably, maybe, had interactions with Jacques at some point. I think he'd also be likely to punch him in the face as well, but along a more political standpoint, especially if he's not drinking anymore, which there's been hints at that at the end of Volume 6 when he put down his flask, he might actually try to talk things out and then help break Weiss out after that, as Jacques won't listen to any of them. Now, Jean and Nora, I don't really know much of their interactions. Of course, Jacques is not going to have a good impression of them, as Nora is literally what he would consider a street rat, unfortunately, because she was impoverished. We saw in her backstory that she was an orphan, that she kind of just showed up in a village and was trying to find food and find a way to live. And John is not of noble blood either, so that he's just from somewhere out in kind of the boonies, I would guess. But Jacques wouldn't have a good opinion of them. But Ren, on the other hand, this is something that I want your guys' opinion of. Ren was from a wealthy family. He was of a family that was of some renown, because he mentioned in Volume 4 when they went to that town that Ren used to live in, it was of the higher class people. Some of them wanted to branch off and have their own village, have their own laws, things like that. So Ren, Lai Ren, his name might actually be something that Jacques knows. He might be some lost son, maybe not of a nobility or something like that, but Jacques might know his name. That's something I'd be really interested in seeing if Jacques actually knew his name, that he was someone, like his parents did have at one point some vast connections, maybe not vast connections, but some connections to Atlas, to the Schnee family, to other high-ranking nobles, or something along those lines. I'm probably reading into this far too much, but that would be something I'd really be interested in seeing. So that's how I think everyone's really going to interact with Jacques. I don't think he's going to pay any mind to Oscar or Maria in any sense of it, although if Ozpin does make another appearance, he might have a thing or two to tell Jacques. Anyways, that's the entire situation, how I think everyone is going to meet Jacques, pretty much trying to raid his mansion in the efforts to save Weiss, and then they would also encounter Klein, who would probably introduce himself with his, bipolar personality semblance. We're still not 100% clear on what exactly is going on with him, but he'd probably help them out once he realized that these are all Weiss's wonderful friends. He'd be thankful that Weiss has so many wonderful friends, and would definitely try to help them out. Whitley, on the other hand, arrogant little shit that he is, would probably get on everyone's nerves. Again, I wouldn't be surprised if actually RWBy this time was the one who punched the little kid in the nose and gave him a little, putting in his place, shall we say. Yang, although her anger, I honestly don't really see her knocking a kid out. Oddly enough, I feel like RWBy, being the more kid-ish of the group, or potentially Oscar, would be the one to, knock some sense into Whitley. However, I do hope that someone puts that kid in his place. He needs to be. Otherwise, if that doesn't happen, if there's not much interaction, then what we're going to see is Jacques get taken down, Whitley go into hiding or something. He's gonna end up being a problem later on. If he has access to his father's accounts, he could end up funding Salem's faction or something along those lines to get back at his sister or get back at the people who he feel wronged him and wronged his father, something along those lines. So yeah, that's gonna be interesting. Now, Weiss's mother being introduced would be something I, again, really would like to see, and I'm really expecting to see when we get to Atlas. I think if she's still drinking, which I'm guessing she still will be, Crow is actually going to have a heart-to-heart with her. If Crow has stopped drinking himself, he is going to be the one to try to talk to her and just say, I have people in my life that mean a lot to me. I used to be in a position similar to you, that I would drink myself off my ass and be belligerent and not really knowing what's going on. But those people brought me out of it. Those people support me, and those people are keeping me sane. You have people like that. You have Weiss. You have Winter. Maybe not Whitley, because again, little shit. And of course, divorce your husband type thing like that. Disown him from the Schnee family. Although, I'm guessing there's some politics involved in that, as otherwise she might have done that already. But Crow will have a little bit of a heart-to-heart with her. RWBy might actually have a heart-to-heart with her as well. They're setting RWBy up as the kind of almost shonen protagonist that everyone is drawn to. Similar to Deku in My Hero Academia, Naruto, things like that, where everyone, as long as they keep trying and keep pushing forward, everyone, even enemies, is eventually drawn to them and considers them a friend and someone that they can actually trust and follow and listen to. I think RWBy is being set up as that person because Crow is listening to her. Well, of course, Crow's related, everything like that. Ozpin trusts her. All the other teachers ended up trusting her and believing in her. And even Oobleck, back in Volume 2, when he was asking everyone their purpose of why do you want to be a huntress? Why do you want to be that? He didn't even need to ask RWBy. He trusted her instincts, and she was someone that he could easily just believe in right out of the gate. Again, might just be rambling, but I think that if RWBy was able to have a heart-to-heart with Weiss's mom, she might be able to have an effect. Say how much she cares about Weiss, how much Weiss has helped her grow, how much they've helped each other grow, and that Weiss now has a whole team that is supporting her, that she is doing extremely well, and something along the lines of, you can do well too. If it would really help her if you were there for her as well. She really needs you now that she's been disowned from her father and the Schnee Company, everything along those lines. Might be rambling, as I mentioned already, by this point, but let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. If you think this is how our main cast will actually encounter the Schnee family, if these interactions are something that you might expect, and let me know. I look forward to hearing what you guys think down in the comments below. If there's any other theories you'd like me to cover, if you have any other ideas with the Schnee family and how maybe Ironwood might get involved, if Winter, we're going to actually see her interactions with her father. I know she's been pretty much disowned by joining the military as well, but we'll see. So again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.